Hello, everyone, and welcome to Growing Together, a gardening podcast with me, John Lamb, and Don Kinsler, a lifelong gardener and the North Dakota State University Extension horticulturist for Cass County. Don, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well, and I've got purplish blue fingers.
Oh,
They're not from the cold.
Yeah, what have you been?
I've been picking Trader mulberry.
Oh, okay.
Off of our mulberry tree. And so hopefully my lips aren't all blue.
I was going to say, picking and eating or just picking?
A little bit of both. But they have a very substantial dye in them. And so I have washed my fingers, but they're all blackish blue. And, the Trader mulberries have been good this year. And, of course, Trader mulberry grows on a tree. We could do a whole program on Trader mulberry. But they are in full fruiting right now. And they ripen over a course of about probably 2 weeks or so. So you continually have a harvest. Mulberries are neat in that they let you know when they're ripe. They easily come off of the little branchlet. If you have to tug on them, they aren't quite fully sweet, but they are good. I don't know if the heat and dryness maybe concentrated a little bit of sugar, but they are good. So in case you wonder why I got bluish black fingers, it's certainly not the cold.
What are you going to be doing with the fruits? With the berries?
Eating them fresh.
Just eat them fresh? Okay. You don't bake them?
They are delicious. We could make a pie, certainly, but we're enjoying them fresh.
Well, that's good. Well, it's good that you're outside and doing some work and getting some things, because it has been brutal out.
Ooh.
We're recording this.
I'm not used to the humidity.
No. And we're recording this almost the very end of July, and it has been a hot, dry month. After we had a really beautiful June, it's been a hot, dry month. And I wanted to see, how should we be treating things? Especially, I look at my lawn. My lawn is going brown, and I know that just means it's dormant. I haven't had to mow in about a month.
It's true.
Should people be mowing now, or should people be watering? How should people be treating their lawns right now?
Well, I save our water for the flowers and the vegetable garden. I don't have a sprinkler system, so we let the lawn go dormant, and our Kentucky bluegrass lawns can go dormant. It's a self-preservation mechanism. When it's not cool and it's not moist, the grass just kind of hunkers down, goes dormant until conditions return to cool and moist, and then it starts growth again. But there is a point of no return. In the late 1980s, the drought of the 1980s, many of us lost our lawns, or they really thinned out, because some of the grass went beyond that point of no return. It can't last in dormancy indefinitely. Okay, so research showed that every 4 to 5 weeks, a dormant lawn needs about a 1/4 inch of rain, at least, to just keep the crown hydrated, so it doesn't just turn to dust and blow away in Dust Bowl fashion. So I am hoping we're going to get a 1/4 inch of rain. If we don't pretty soon, and if I see it's been 4 to 5 weeks since we got a rain, I'm going to have to put a sprinkler out, put the tuna can out, so I can catch and determine that I've put a 1/4 inch on. And of course, trees, anything maybe 10 years or less, the big shade trees towering overhead, they're going to cope fine. But anything maybe 10 years or less, 7 to 10 years, without the big expansive root system, could really stand a good soaking. I like the black soaker hose, that slowly exudes water out of its surface and trickles down. You spiral that around, not just around the trunk of the tree, but around the drip line under the canopy of the tree. That's where the feeder roots, the thirsty roots are that can really take it up. So if we had a crystal ball and knew that it was going to be this long for many of us without rain, I would have started some of the soaking maybe a week or 2 ago. But, I'm going to do it now, especially around apple trees that are sizing up the fruit. We got to get some moisture into those. So if there's no appreciable, and when I say appreciable, gosh, we need over an inch of rain to get down in and penetrate. So I've started soaking around some of our younger type trees, including the fruit trees.
If we don't have a hose to get out that far, because some of us plant trees further away, maybe on the edge of the property, how can you give a good watering to a tree then? You probably just don't want to dump a whole bucket out there.
Well, you can slowly dump a whole bucket out there if you dump it slow enough. A 5-gallon bucket, somebody gave me this tip a few years ago. Drill some holes in a 5-gallon bucket, and just a couple of holes so it's a slow trickle, And for every inch of tree trunk diameter, you should apply about 10 gallons.
Okay.
So I've got a Japanese tree lilac that's 3-inch trunk diameter. So that should have 3 times 10. So that should have about 30 gallons. So 6 5-gallon buckets. And, so if I got a couple of buckets, I have actually drilled some holes in the bottom, fill those up, let it slowly trickle in so it doesn't all run off. And so that 5-gallon bucket is a pretty good way to determine how many gallons you're getting on a tree.
And if you're going to do that, maybe you want to move that bucket around so it's not just
Oh,
hitting
definitely,
all the
yeah.
same area
so
there.
it kind of gets in. So the idea is not just to hold the hose around the base of the trunk, but to get it around under the canopy and at the edge of the drip line of the tree, which was where the feeder roots of that tree are, and beyond.
Getting back to the lawn, is it, if I'd heard that if once it starts getting like really, really dry here, if you water it, then you kind of stuck watering it because the lawn's going to need that again and again and again. Is there any truth to that? Or, I mean, you said that it kind of as a matter of a necessity, we will need to give it some water. But like if you've been watering it, are you kind of stuck in that cycle of
we don't want to. We
addiction?
don't want to pull a lawn in and out of dormancy. We don't water, get it to green up, then make it go dormant again, then water. We don't want to do that. So if you've been watering and the lawn is green, we really need to continue that. The 1/4-inch survival water that I mentioned isn't going to get the lawn to green up, but that 1/4-inch will at least get some moisture into the crown, so it's not going to just wither away and start having thin lawns once good conditions do return. Right. But you're absolutely right. We don't want to keep pulling lawns in and out of dormancy by watering, then let it dry, then watering. And in order to get a lawn to actually green up, it probably takes 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain to get it to green up again. But once it does green up, then it would be best for the lawn to keep it green with watering.
All right. Well, we did see some really great lawns and some really great yards recently on the Red River Valley garden tour, and we've got a special guest in the studio today. But first of all, you've got a question from a listener.
Yes, Sue wrote in with a photo and said, "My mandevilla is getting yellow leaves and dropping. It hasn't been blooming much either. I've never had problems like this before. It looks like it is dying." And there's 1 weak blossom. Thanks, Sue, for writing in and for the photo. It looks like there's one kind of weak blossom, but the leaves are yellowish. There's some brown spots, and it just doesn't look like it's doing well. There's also a moisture meter in the pot. And so now mandevilla is a tropical vine, likes the heat, but even a heat-loving vine can have too much heat. And it's tricky when we have this much heat. Okay, you water and then it dries out. You water more. We can easily overwater things. They can develop root rots. And so for the mandevilla, I would move it into the shade during the heat of the day, or even temporarily until this heat passes. Maybe give it a more of a morning sun, afternoon shade. Give it a little relief. I think it looks like it's just been too hot, even for a mandevilla. And so I would give it a little relief. And watch the watering so it gets what it needs, but not constantly moist. This extended heat has been tricky because you don't want the things to wilt and die from lack of water, so sometimes then things stay too moist, and with all this humidity we can get lots of rotting. So I think the first thing I would do would be to move it to a cooler location.
All right. Well, Sue, I hope that helps you out. If people have questions for you, Don, about whether something's going right or something's going wrong, what's the best way to reach you?
Send an email, donald.kinsler, spelled Kinzler, at ndsu.edu.
And if possible, send photos. That helps
Photos
a lot.
are always great. That tells the story. I mentioned that also Sue had a moisture meter in that pot, kind of a moisture watering device. Sometimes when it's this hot and dry, I think the human eye and human touch is probably a little better than the moisture meter.
Yeah.
So I would, so interesting discussion on that mandevilla.
Well, talk about photos and photo-worthy yards. Tim Flakoll is joining us here today. And Tim, you were recently part of the Red River Valley Garden Tour. Is that the full name?
That is, and welcome, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. And first, let me thank you for writing the story in the form about the upcoming tour and featuring some of my stuff there. It was really, oh man, I got so many. I mean, at church they had a story out on tables, and I mean, I'd get them from here and there. And somebody came in from down towards the Twin Cities and brought me a copy, and I mean, it was just pretty cool. It was very well received.
Yeah, and so this was the Red River Valley Garden Tour, which was held July 15th, 16th. Mm-hmm. It's an NDSU Extension Master Gardener event, and it this year showcased eight locations, including yours, Tim. And so it was a huge success. There were approximately 700 attendees. Okay. And just yesterday, our Master Gardeners presented the nonprofit who was this year's recipient of the funds, Hope Blooms. We awarded the check for $10,089.
That's a good
$10,089. So the proceeds from this event went to the wonderful, worthy cause of Hope Blooms. And thank you, Tim, for all of the publicity that you provided and for opening up your yard. Your yard was absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Put a lot of time into it. But one thing I want to point out to listeners is if you're thinking about doing it, I am by no means a master gardener. I don't have that, designation behind my name. I'm just a kid who grew up in Forbes, North Dakota, whose, mom, liked to garden and dad was a farmer and everything. So I just kind of, live and learn by what works, and what doesn't work in my areas. As I was thinking during this process, I was thinking about how my yard has changed over the years since I moved in 1997, and how, much like in life, you kind of have to sometimes pivot, because I went from shady area in the front to hot baked sun. That totally changed everything. And then in the backyard, I had, sun, and I had amazing grass at one time, and then I put in a tree and I lost my amazing grass, and then I had creeping Charlie and everything. But I have basically 7 what I'll call micro gardens in my yard, and I tried to also show just some of the things you can do. It wasn't just the flower itself for me, because I couldn't tell you a scientific name for a flower if you held the gun to my head and offered me $10,000. But I just keep going, and I mean, I was at the garden shops all the time, to the point where you almost like named the flowers and go, Betsy's gone today. Oh, somebody bought Betsy. Oh, good. It's almost like going to the dog pound. But and for me, it was a great opportunity. What I consider like a once in a lifetime. I treat it as a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm ever mindful, because of the life I've led, that how people evaluate people. And I remember Joe DiMaggio, the famous Yankee, saying, when asked, why do you go full out at every play, even though you're going to be out at first base, he goes, because somewhere in the stands there are a few fans that will only see me play once in their entire lifetime, and they're going to base their opinion of me on that one game experience. So in some respects, I have one day on, whatever day they show up for the 2 days, the tour, to show someone, what I'm about a little bit. So I wanted to do well, and I wanted to do well because my dear friend Melissa Brandt has now moved to North Carolina to take a great job, and it was kind of, in a way, we liked working together. We had like one brain trying to figure out how to do things and what we should have where, and it was kind of, for me, just a great chance to work with her one last time for something of great value that helps the community. And also the second day was the 3rd anniversary of my mother passing. So I also felt compelled to do something kind of to honor her.
Well, of course, Tim, in addition to being a wonderful gardener, many people will recognize your name, Tim Flakoll, as a long career in many different things. You were manager of the FM Red Hawks career. How many years were you manager of the
total
team?
years I was there. I was like the second employee starting in September 1995, and then my last would have been in January of 2002, because they were getting ready to sell the team. So
Yep, and of course, you grew up on a farm at Forbes, southern North Dakota,
Yep.
and then also you were with the Tri-College University
College and
as provost.
yeah,
Yep,
over
with
5
Tri-College
campuses, like 35,000
University.
students, and
And now you're currently a Cass County Commissioner. You were state legislator. So if the name Tim Flakoll rings a bell to many of you, you have a long career in this area. So we really appreciated your opening your yard as part of the tour. So now I'm curious. So take us back to the day of the tour. What did you notice when people started coming? What were some of their reactions? Well, first of all, let me back up a little further. What were some of the things in your yard that you did to prepare, or what were some of the things that you prepared for a tour that you maybe would not have done other years?
a ton of things that I would have done other years probably. Again, a lot of people know where I live, so I actually do water my lawn because it's like,
It's beautiful.
Flakoll's yard looks terrible. So it kind of in a way reflects on them because I'm an elected official, I think. But just a lot of things. I kind of went in with the concept of no matter which way a person looks, up, down, left, right, or straight ahead, I want them to see something. And I also want them to experience and see things they don't normally see around, or that they won't see in other places in the garden park. Case in point, a few years ago, actually, I came up with the concept. Someday I'd like to hang umbrellas kind of over part of my yard. So as people came down the driveway, they were greeted by umbrellas that were kind of dancing in the wind, and then they were also in a south a garden area, flower garden area south of my house, and it just was one of those. You don't get that. And plus, the added benefit was it helped protect those flowers that were underneath it during that really, really incredibly hot spell.
Days, yeah.
But again, it was about also I had some of I try to have kind of like unique vases, and I put flowers in them just to show people again what could you do with flowers beyond just having them rooted.
Walking down that driveway with the umbrellas overhead was absolutely charming. That was delightful.
Yeah. And then when they got in, if you can mentally walk, I walked down a long driveway. And then in my garage, I worked with North Dakota State University because I was in the animal science department at one time. So we got a couple of their miniature horses. And those went over really well, and we adorned them in flowers, and it's kind of like some people do for a wedding or something. So again, it was like one of those I would have never guessed someone would have that.
Well, in fact, our master gardeners who greeted people as they came in, registered them, etc., said that there were people that came back a second time
yep.
specifically for those horses.
Yep. Because they weren't there the full time because it was warm, and
Right.
they have to be a couple hours on, a couple hours off. So we were trying to be very cognizant of that. We had a handout, and we had a scavenger hunt, and all with like 12 things. I was shocked at the number of people that did that, because it was all these little nuances of things. 'Cause
Sure.
we had like a guitar case with Edelweiss in there, tip of the hat to the music, Sound of Music movie. We had hot air balloons, which are blowing glass in one of my trees, 8 of them. And that was a tip of the hat to the Wizard of Oz, the scene at the end. We had the hotel from the Hotel Coronado, which was used in the movie Some Like It Hot. And I just wanted to, everywhere they went, they would have something that could of interest, they could take a picture of. And I was trying to think of what can we do. And I have a gazebo in my backyard that's got it's metal with a lot of gingerbreading on it. And we had, we hung flowers from there, and it's got lights on the top. And because we wanted to have something that people could go, let's take a picture of the two of us.
I bet
here.
a lot of people were taking
Yeah,
pictures.
and we'll use it for a Christmas card picture or something like that.
Right.
But it's just one of those that you want to give them something so that it's surprises everywhere. We had the local artist who's very good, Rando, painting on site both days, the full time. He absolutely loved it, and he engaged with the people that came through and talked and answered a lot of questions. And spur of the moment, he got so caught up in what the event was that he decided in hour one, I'm going to give one piece of artwork away to somebody, unbeknownst to them. We had people go, how can I win? How can I win? It's not about that. It's about, do you show an interest? Do you, so on and so forth. And I said, one of them, I told him, because I only knew one of the ladies he gave it to, and I go, boy, you got that one perfect. I said, she's been fighting cancer, and her husband just recently passed away. You could have not picked a better person to make their day than that lady. I
Wow,
said,
and his artwork was beautiful.
Yeah,
we saw him as he was there painting. It was
you'll find it all
absolutely
around town.
wonderful.
So what I wanted to do is kind of so-called intertwingle plants with art, with the whole kind of scope of everything that you encounter in a lifetime. But there's a lot of work to it. I mean, and it's always frustrating for me, a farm kid, when I have to go buy dirt.
Yes.
When I own 3,200 acres of dirt,
and have to buy it by the bag.
And it's not really the kind of true dirt that I want. So that was a little frustrating. It was fun because I also, my parents used to live at Edgewood Vista, so I got a hold of their manager and said, would you like to bring some people? So I said, I'll pay for it. You just send me the bill. And so they had some of their people come and in walkers and stuff, and they had a blast.
All right, let's take a quick little break. When we come back, more with Tim Flakoll and his experience as part of the Red River Valley Garden Tour.
Get 3 months of local news for just 99 cents a month. You'll get unlimited access to the news you need to stay engaged and connected to your community. Visit inforum.com/subscribe now to get 3 months of local news for only 99 cents a month.
All right, we're back, and this week we've got Tim Flakoll with us. Tim was one of the 8 gardens?
It was 8.
On the Red River Valley Garden Tour. I'm not going to say that it was a favorite, but I think it was a highlight, clearly, because you had a lot of different things going on. We were talking about the miniature horses that you had in there. You had, certainly for you, a garden is a place where it's not just the flowers, but it's creating a space and creating, like you said, things to look at up and down, from things up in trees to the wonderful gazebo to the flowers that you planted around there. But a lot of those flowers and plants, some of the flowers, they really have deep connection for you, right?
Yeah, and I have some favorites. I'll lead off with, we split a traditional old-fashioned red peony that was on the farm, but Mom had planted it like 67, 68 years ago. Now, I've usually counted about, we went to like 170, then 200-ish, and that's the number I gave you guys when we visited. My sister was home at the time and counted it. This year it had 361 flowers on it.
Oh, wow.
Well,
that's amazing.
That's amazing. But
so then you divided it, and then you've got
divided it,
that plant,
and I have
some of that plant.
The first time when I planted it in a bad spot, didn't do well. Now I planted it in a better spot, and it's really going gangbusters. It just takes a while. And that's one of the things with this, is, planting early. I also have a favorite called Chance Encounter, which is a daylily with ruffled edges. And one of the things that drives you crazy from a host standpoint is you just go, please, please, please bloom stuff on that day.
Yeah.
Because, those, as you know, they literally bloom one day. And like last week, I had a day where I had I had 11 blooms, which I've never ever had before. I max out at maybe 5. But so you really hope for that. I had an amaryllis that went a little too fast, and it's this terrible heat during that time plus smoke. But what I did with that is I literally had a little plastic 2 by 4 foot table, 2 feet wide, 4 feet long, and I put it over the top to keep keep the sun off of it, and that really slowed it down. I would estimate by about 3 days. So it kind of saved it, because those, the amaryllis, which a lot of people don't associate with planting in the summertime, the big bulbs, they do great. And these were They were beautiful monsters.
It's amazing. Being on the yard tour last year, I have to chuckle at what you said, too. You just hope, please let such and such be blooming.
Yeah.
Because, it doesn't do much good to try to describe people, the one that got away. This was really beautiful last week,
Yeah.
So, I get a kick out of that.
Well, and so for some of the early ones, I had taken pictures, and then I used one of those plastic sticks that they use when you give flowers to somebody, and put pictures on them.
yes.
So like
that was a good idea.
The bleeding hearts, way long gone, blooming already.
That was a great idea.
Fern peonies, way long gone.
In fact, I heard people mention that when Mary and I were walking around on the tour. They appreciated that because, it was something that was months ago. We still had a photo of it. And you had things nicely labeled. Tour people really appreciate that when they can know what a plant is.
Yeah, so it's a lot of those little things that you go. I mean, it's kind of, maybe it's like campaigning in a way because there's always one more thing you can do, one more thing you can do, one more thing you can do. It doesn't matter. So those are some, and then the Edelweiss, which I've really never worked with before. Because a lot of times you can only find seeds, and I'm just not a plant a seed kind of guy. I'm more like
so that Edelweiss, the perennial Edelweiss in the guitar case, that was unique.
Yeah,
I think gardeners enjoy kind of doing something, adding things to the garden like that. And I mean that was creative.
Yeah. And I had a little bit of a 250th anniversary of the United States going on with some bunting, which, for those of you who don't know what bunting is, it's like the red, white, and blue flag things that kind of hang. Like if you go to a baseball game on the 4th of July, you would see it there. So we tried to do some of that, and
that was nicely incorporated into.
I had bought some because I also thought of us like, okay, if nothing's blooming, what do I got? So I had little things. So like I had what they're called Harlequin sheep, which are like ceramic plastic, they're painted black and white in the Harlequin shape, and had them out front with bow ties on. I had one with a patriotic tie and one with the NDSU tie on around their necks. So because you just kind of wanted to get, no matter where you look, you find something like, oh, that's pretty cool. Where do I get that from?
So your statuary and things were worked really nicely into the whole theme of the garden. Yeah. Another thing in your backyard is this big vertical rock you've got. Tell us about that.
Well,
big, what type of stone is it?
It's quartzite. We're
in the
process
stands about
of
3 feet tall, 4 feet.
I forget how many. I think it's. Is it a total of 43 inches? I can't remember now exactly, but it was 535 pounds. But my grandfather saved it from being buried in the state line, and so the family's done our best to preserve it because those things walk off. So I'm holding
it's kind of like a big stone, almost a pillar.
They're about 11 by 11. So if the audience has ever been to a Bison football game or know the quartzite, the Dakota marker, well, this is what it was based off of. Except it's a lot heavier. The quarter marker is like 60 pounds.
And this is five.
This one is 535.
535
and there's some that are bigger
pounds.
than this. They're just a matter of taller. But it was done like in the early days of statehood to separate the North Dakota-South Dakota line. They started at Minnesota, and then there's a mark on the side of the stone how many miles it is from where they started to that particular stone, and they put one every half mile. There's about 720 of them originally.
So on one side of the stone is engraved ND, and the other side SD.
SD, yes.
So then that would have been right on the actual border between states.
Yeah, because my grandfather's his farm is a small, like 40-acre farm, is like right on the border. In fact, I mean, if you've been to Forbes, there's literally a state line where, in theory, we'd weave back and forth North Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota. So if you're, if you're going west and you're in the right lane, you're in North Dakota. If you're in the left lane, you're in South Dakota, or, the oncoming traffic lane, I guess you call it. Probably it's not a four-way. But yeah, so those are kind of cool keepsakes that we want to continue to have.
And those things were incorporated nicely into your yard.
Working with, the federal government and the county to, get it permanently displayed so people can get a chance to see it. And, NDSU talked about it, but they were kind of worried about it walking off.
It'd be tough to walk off a 535 pound.
A couple football players needed to lift that.
You don't want to drop that one in your foot.
No.
Ouch.
Can't get that out on a two-wheeler. Yeah.
No. But unfortunately, you could drag it with a chain, which would really ruin it. Yeah.
Are there any things that you would have, as you were thinking back, that anything that you would have liked to have done that you didn't do? It was such a success that I can't imagine anything. But anything in hindsight, you thought,
yeah,
oh,
very,
gosh, I
very
should have
much
done
so.
this?
I wish I knew 3 years ago what I know now, because some of my plants that were there weren't, were just planted that spring. They weren't very established, and they weren't having a whole bunch of blooms of them and everything. So I wish I would have. And then I I'd lost some trees in this one place, and I'd kind of waited to see what I was going to do with it. So I would have so-called started earlier, so they're more mature. And I mixed a lot of perennials with annuals in there, because of color, and wanted to have a lot of different things. I had some, different climbing things. I had how would I describe it? It's like a wrought iron guitar with spindles, we'll call it. And then they had a climbing flowering plant on that. And it looked pretty cool.
It did.
Some days better than others. I mean, a couple of days I'm like, oh, that is like the front of the next whatever album for somebody. It was very cool in that regard. So.
And of course, our committee is always looking for new. We're already planning for 2027 and 2028, and so we're always looking for new gardens, new yards, and of course, we hear this so often. Gosh, my yard just isn't good enough for that. And I guess we all have weeds. We all have things in our yard. What advice would you give to somebody that is thinking about it? Maybe their neighbor says, hey, your yard should be on a tour. Is there anything that you would mention to people, maybe to help overcome a hesitancy, or any advice you would give someone thinking about having their yard on a tour?
Well, I think one of the things is I've had a couple garden parties at my house that were right around that July time. So, so then I would kind of plant things that were in their zenith around that time, as opposed to some of these earlier things
Sure.
that weren't. Secondly, I'm ever thankful for 4-H program, and Wayne Hankel, who's a friend of mine, living here in Fargo now. He was an agent, because we used to have the old corn contest, the Weathermaster corn contest, and my older brother, younger sister, and I, we would do that. And it's about trying to, the day they're going to be there, trying to hit that peak. Because in all honesty, if you were to be at my house 10 days before the event, I estimated that I was at 40% of where I wanted to be. And just kind of, and hit that and ride that, and right now it's not 100%, trust me, gosh, you get those hanging baskets, they got like packing peanuts for, try to hold water in them, they're terrible. But so just, think about that in terms of how do you kind of maneuver towards that,
Right.
those couple days.
Because there are some things that, okay, if a person's got a good yard, and we did the same thing last year, and okay, if you've got a yard that you've got some things and you'd like to show people, but there are some things that you can definitely do. For example, we planted up a bunch of extra pots of annuals that we knew for kind of mid or third week in July would be at their peak. So we kind of planned for those extra, that in case some areas were a little light in color, we could kind of move those pots. So like you say, a person we know those dates, so a person can kind of supplement what you have in your yard by targeting those things.
Yeah, I mean, I had my bullpen. These guys, you're not blooming, you're out of there.
Ready to
Next
go.
guy up.
I love that idea though too about what you were doing. Like that you before you would have a garden party, around that time. And I think that's a great idea because you get to see your yard with people in it and what people are interacting with, what people are excited about, but also it just gets you used to it. And why not show off your yard? I think that's a great thing. If somebody is interested in doing that, start by throwing a garden party right now and just see.
Good idea.
And make it whatever you want it to be. Yeah, because I would invite friends and stuff over. And if nothing else, for those private parties, I'd had wine and beer, so they didn't have to worry about my flowers.
Right.
but no, I mean that's a good way to do it. And my backyard, I've tried to make it, I hate to say a sanctuary, but when you're in my backyard, you don't even feel to me like you're in Fargo. There's not the noise, the
Very
hustle,
true.
the bustle. It's just a certain calmness. There's
very
really cool
peaceful.
filtered light that comes in because of how the tree patterns go. So I've
It's
tried
really
to
an
do some
oasis.
of that.
Well, and I think the other great thing about your yard is that it's you. It's very individual.
Yeah.
No one else was. We were not going to find another yard like that on the tour, and the other past tours haven't seen anything like that. And I think that that's great. So I think that too, that if somebody's looking at having the tour, they're saying, well, my tour is not like that, or my garden's not like that, my garden's not like that, and it doesn't have to be. All it
Right,
has
it's
to
a
be.
good thing. It's not like
Yes,
another one.
I think
people are looking for the individual.
People appreciate, yes, a reflection of the individual.
Very true.
And they're going to want to talk to you about that. About like why do you plant the amaryllis bulbs, or things like that, and tell me about this peony. I've heard that there's an interesting story with this peony.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way. So don't look at having a cookie cutter garden.
Well, and like you both have been to my house, but for the listeners, I have a 1929, stucco gingerbread Tudor house, and it's got character. I mean, some people, I even showed like 3 people the inside of my house because they're friends who had never visited my place before. I'm like, oh, I'm going to show it. And plus, I wanted to get out of the into air conditioning. But it was kind of because then it helps complete the cycle too a little bit. And for example, you talk about that. I have window boxes which are always great. They always work out well for me. And again, thanks to Melissa Brandt for doing all the planting with there and lots of other places. But I used to have. Whatever I inherited when I bought the place in 97, but then I would use pine, like 1-inch thick pine by, 8 inches, et cetera, et cetera. They'd last maybe 6 years. So this last time I bought composite decking material, that plasticky stuff, with a wood grain on it, and they're really, really heavy.
They made a beautiful looking window box.
They really are attractive, I think, and
Very.
I think they will last a long, long time. They may last longer than me.
They'll age well. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course that's the beauty of every yard is complementing the structure. What you've done in your yard with the window boxes and just the way that you've created the yard really complements the structure of your home, which is 100.
Well, that's
100 years?
97.
97 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the few houses that I have vines on my house, which, it's good or bad. Vines are, it takes a lot of maintenance.
They suit the stucco well. It looks neat
suits
with
the stucco
that.
well, and
but I know what you mean.
You got to stay on top of them because
exactly.
they can. Literally, I've had times they'll grow 5 feet in a week
Yeah.
Sure.
in the right conditions of moisture and heat.
You could have a house hidden underneath the vines. But
but it's great on the south side. So it just provides that. I suppose it's about 6 inches separation from the edge of the leaves to my house. So it takes some of that direct heat and doesn't let it hit the house.
Sure.
Yep.
Good point.
So
Yeah.
I use that as
Plus
old timers.
It looks like it suits. Yeah, it looks like it suits
yeah,
the house
yeah.
well too.
Well, I feel like I'm asking, like we haven't even finished lunch yet, and I'm asking what are we having for dinner tomorrow night. But are you looking forward to next year where you don't have to be on the tour, but maybe now were you inspired to do something different for next year, or eyeing something different than what you're going to do? Whether it's even kind of pulling back and not doing as much and focusing on something, or bringing in something different.
Yeah, I like to try different plants all the time. I mean, I counted one day, I had, like 80 different varieties of things, everything from, fortunately on the first day of the tour, one of my passion flowers was blooming, which, boy, that's catching lightning in a bottle there on that one, because it didn't bloom the next day or any days since then. But so I'm always looking for things that are, because I think it's fun when they see something that they haven't seen, like, I don't want to necessarily, no disrespect to Stella de Oros, the yellow flowers, but they can see that a lot of places.
Yeah, I always joke that the little Stella de Oro daylily is in front of every credit union, dentist office, and bank in town. Bless their little hearts.
So that's why I kind of try to go with some of the more exotic things, and I do try to, with my daylilies, have rebloomers, if at all possible. I would like to get a couple more Weigulas. I planted them. They were in a too low of a spot, I think, and they got drowned out. So I'm kind of playing that. I bought some Taylor junipers, and they kind of got shocked a little bit, I think, this summer. Lost some foliage at the bottom. So, again, like I said, earlier in the comments is, I think that's part of the draw and the fun is that evolving with your yard and your space
definitely.
and what else could I have. And for listeners, I mean, I maybe too much, so I pack a lot of different things because some people do great with just, I'm going to have a big area with all lilies, whatever color, all the same. And me, I'm more like, I'm doing micro things. I've got a space that probably less than a 8-foot table would be. And I've got, I bet, 12 different types of plants in there. I've got a yellow peony. I've got, mandevilla, they were like a coral. They were multicolored. People were like, where'd you get those from?
Okay.
Sometimes you don't always remember where you get things from, but it's got to be a couple places in town here. But I had the lanthus, if I'm pronouncing that right. I had the amaryllis. I mean, I'm just like stacking stuff. It's like, don't turn your back, flower, and have a bad day because you're gonna get something shoved right in behind you to cover for you.
Sure.
All right, Tim, this has been great. It's been great having you on, and thanks again for opening up your yard and being part of the garden tour. Just out of curiosity, did you get to go to any of the other yards?
I feel bad. I mean, I drove past some because I knew where.
Well, I was in the same boat last year, being on the tour. I did not make it to any of them, so don't feel badly. A person's busy with your own
I feel like
tour.
I was kind of like, because I really respect, and I know. I mean, I saw pictures. It's like really amazing stuff, but it comes down to, I only had so much time.
Yeah, a person's so focused on your own as I was last year on the tour,
and some things
too.
you can't do until the very, even though North Fargo is very blanketed or protected from wind, the umbrellas are very, very, very sensitive to wind. And I'd never done that before. It was just a concept that I came up with. It's like, okay, we're going to run pole up here. We're going to run bungee, so it's got a little give if the wind hits it. And then we're going to run them across to the eave trough, put a C-clamp on the eave trough, and then hang this many, I think.
And it was just perfect. The umbrellas looked like they just kind of gently were floating overhead.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely perfect. And for your yard and some of the others tour, also, people can go on the Facebook page for Red River Valley Garden Tour, and there are Facebook photos, and we'll be adding some more to that, so people can get kind of a glimpse of the yards, including yours.
And if I could put in a plug for Hope Blooms. Hope Blooms is an organization that I'll call it repurposes flowers, which I didn't know about. But a friend of mine came to my mother's funeral, and we had all these flowers, and we're not going to stay back in Florida. We're heading back to Fargo, Iowa, Nebraska. It was like, what are we going to do with all these flowers? Well, my friend Sharon Miller said, she was on the board of Hope Blooms. She goes, we can take them to Hope Blooms, and they repurpose them and rebundle them up in different designs and take them to long-term care facilities. I just saw a really touching photo of a lady who looked like she was in a hospital bed. Just really a day maker for people. And so, I mean,
Definitely,
what great work.
Receiving a bouquet just out of a surprise lets people know they aren't forgotten. They're taken to food pantries, women's shelters, nursing homes.
I've done that where I bought flowers, and gave them to people. I mean, you're married, you probably can't get by with that because people get suspicious. But for me, I'm just like, hey, here you go. And they're like, oh my gosh, for me, really? Thank you.
Yeah. And Hope Blooms operates totally on donations.
Yeah.
So this over $10,000 was really a meaningful donation to that organization.
All right. Well, Tim, thanks a lot for coming in today and
thanks,
sharing
sir.
your story.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Tim.
the work you both do. I mean, my sister-in-law, like in Ames, Iowa, listens all the time to the podcast. She just loves it.
We'll put Iowa on the list. We'll put that on the map where we've got listeners.
Yes.
And Don, thanks a lot. If people have questions for you about anything gardening related, or just want to show off what their accomplishments are,
any questions, concerns, or things that are going really, really well, also, photos are great. Send them to donald.kinsler, KINZLER, at ndsu.edu. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tim. And thanks, everyone, for listening.